Alright, here it is. Look at this thing. It turned out fantastic. I am so happy with this helmet. There's so much that I enjoy about this. We'll get into it in a minute. This is going to be a little long one, so let's just jump right into it. First thing I do is, of course, measure, because I'm going to put fiberglass in it. So I measure, I cut out the fiberglass, and measure, I cut out the fiberglass. Ultimately, not fond with the fiberglass, or not fond of the fiberglass. I think I can get away without using it, and if I can, I'd really prefer to do that. So I set everything out about where it goes. Then I cut the fiber mat for the visor part, set it where it goes. It's all prep work at this point. I was a little too loose with all my numbers. I really should have traced things out, gotten exact numbers, exact measurements. I just kind of went, yeah, good enough. And it is, but you know, important part here is I mark my cups. I don't want to have to think. I just mark it. Shake, shake, shake. Gloves, of course. With this resin, the yellow, which is part A, tends to catalyze on its own. So you got to really make sure you shake it well, use it quickly. Equal parts A and B into the cup, and then we're going to slush cast. We've seen the slush cast dance. I've done it a couple of times, so we're just going to jump to the entertaining bits, right? Put it in. I move the resin around to wherever I think it needs to go. Then I start putting in fiber mat. This is the woven fiber mat as opposed to the fibers. I feel the woven tends to... I like it more, but it's harder to use at the exact same time. I've got a good bit down, so I'm putting pretty much everything in. I wait until it's tacky, and then I put it in. That way it's not just loose. Because if it's just in the standard resin, it's going to fall. But if it's in the tackier stuff, it tends to hold itself in place. Throw in some more resin. And then there we go again. All the way around. Unfortunately, I have to do a lot of touching with this stuff to make sure it's pushed all the way in. There's no weird air bubbles. I'm filling up the front cheeks. If I had the whole thing to do over again, I would have absolutely left those off, cast them in resin, and put them on at the end of the show, rather than trying to fill them in the mold. Ultimately, it works, but I think there could have been a better way of doing it. Honestly, if I had the whole thing to do over again, oh my goodness, the amount of different I would do. Of course, it's kind of the way it is, right? The first time I did it, I'm like, oh, if I did it again, I'd do it this way, which is what I just did. And it turned out really good. Now I'm like, if I did it again, I'd do it this way. And it's the same thing. Right now we're just waiting for resin to cure. There's a couple of loose, shallow spots. At this point I'm like, you know what? Take my Fitbit off. I've forgotten that before, and it's just not been fun, and now I have resin on my Fitbit. I need to get a new band. It took like a week to peel all of this stuff off the face. But now I'm just slush casting. Things fall every now and again. I'm going to put it back in place. Leave it on its side for a bit, let it cure. Do the other side. This is a fun part. This is one of my favorite parts. Demolding. I really should be way more gentle with my mold than I am. But I've already got the 4 I need. I'd like to do maybe 4 more. We'll see. But I'm a bit too aggressive when it comes to demolding. I should have done this as a full 2-part mold. And I should have put the seam on the side, not the back. It would have made things way easier, but, you know, again, were I to do it again, it'd be a different process. But here we are, demolding. I am being careful to try and not tear the mold. I know it doesn't look like it, but I am. There's some flashing here that I have to remove. I make sure I put the mold back in the mother mold because I don't want anything weird happening to it while it's out. The last thing I need is to be messing around and, you know, drop something on it. This came out pretty good. Light sanding here and there. I'm just going over trying to get the flashing off at this point where the seam is. I was going to just hand sand the whole thing and I'm like, But I want to add in where the visor is. I want to add a floor, I guess, roof, whatever you want to call it. I want to fill that in without fully filling it in. So I make a cardboard template and I cover it in tape so the resin doesn't stick to it. This works all right. I tried the first time with just using tape because I don't know why. I wasn't really thinking, wasn't paying attention. Every now and again I do this thing and then I just forget I know what I'm doing and I have a bunch of supplies I can use and I get fixated on, oh, well, let's use tape. Tape will be fine. Tape's not fine. I ended up using, well, you'll see it in a second. Let's not, you know, jump the gun or horse before the cart, as it were. So I make sure it fits pretty well. There's a lot of resin in the front, so I have to kind of snip the tip a bit. I tried a bunch of things and then I'm like, oh wait, I have Sculpey. Just regular Sculpey. There's nothing special about it. It's a bake to harden polymer clay. Right now I'm just using it to make a few dams on the sides because I want to beef up that whole area. So I'm going to fill that in with Sculpey, which again, once it's done and I've used the thing, I just pull it back out and I can reuse it. So I just pour a bunch of resin in there and the mold holds it in place. The stuff is fantastic. I use it constantly when I'm doing stuff. I've been sewing a lot lately, so you know, you forget simple processes every now and again. Simple techniques. Slowly fill it till it's full. Now here I put the Sculpey underneath and it made a huge difference. This is going to work out fantastically. Just like with the side, I fill it, I let it cure, and then I pull this piece off and I just have a solid resin plate that is exactly what I wanted it to do. I really should modify the mold so I can mess with it easier. So again, I pull out the Sculpey, I curl it into a ball, throw it in a bag, walk away, use it for the next time. Stuff is inexpensive and fantastic. Now I wanted a return inside along the back because that's where I tend to hold the helmets, and that's what this is. I'm just filling this area in the back with resin. Let it cure. I walk away from it, and it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. I am so happy with that part. I went from hand sanding to my orbital. It's way faster, way easier. I got the door open. Got some headphones on because it is a little on the loud side. I do like my hearing. So I'm just, you know, going over the whole thing. I switch between the orbital and my palm sander. I jump into with a Dremel here and there, wherever I think I need it. Whatever tool I need is the one I'm using. There's a lot of sanding. Had I been a little more careful with the filling of the resin, it'd be a different story, but you know. It is what it is. It turns out really good. There's one area I'm not overtly happy with, and it's by the vents on the side. But other than that, I am super pleased with this helmet. I've been looking at it, right? I've been painting it here and there, and I get giddy every time I see it. Lots of dust. I probably should have a dust mask on. I don't think it's that bad here, but it will be in a minute. Because I want to shape the underside of this visor, right? It's a little too flat. And it was just a guess on where I think I wanted it. Nice and rigid, makes me happy. Now this is the part where I'm like, oh, that's a lot of dust. And that was just the first second I put my cutting wheel into it. Hold on. Luckily, we're in the middle of we're at the end of a pandemic, and everybody's got masks. So I just go and grab one of mine. It's just a dust mask. I'm not wearing my full respirator. I probably should be in a respirator, but yeah, it's all the way on the other side of the garage. The dust mask does a good job, and it's just filtering out all of that. Like I said, I had the doors open, so it's not like it's just hanging in the air. It is moving pretty quick. And I am just cutting off the bit of the visor. I've already marked it where I wanted it. So this is really just tracing with the cutting wheel. Look at that thing. A lot of smoke. Well, a lot of dust. I'm going to go into priming. Nice even coats, nice and light. I'm only showing a couple of things in real time. A lot of this is sped up. This is real time because, you know. And yes, I'm using rattle can. I like rattle can. This is Rust-Oleum Sandable Primer. That's all it is. It's not 2-in-1. It's not ×2. It's not primer, and it's just primer. I just want it to adhere to the resin and prepare for paint. I don't want it to do anything else. I don't want it to no, I just want it to be primer. I'm pretty particular about the paints I use. Here I'm using Rust-Oleum's protective enamel for the base, and I'm just spraying the white areas. Since I'm starting with the white, nothing's masked. Just nice even coats. Trying not to overdo it here, because it's easy to overdo. Last thing I want to do is have to sand a drip. Luckily, there weren't any on this one. I was super happy. And as you can see, I am in a full respirator at this point. Paint, I'm not going to mess around with. Paint aerates too well. So I'm just covering all the areas. The white turned out fantastic. I need to get a higher gloss than I have right now, because right now I've got kind of a matte, and it looks great. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, here we went to a ×3 speed. I'm super happy with this paint job. The blue is a little light, as you'll see in a second, but since I'm using a yellow and another blue and a gray, and I wanted a lighter blue. That was an active choice, and it's one that I'm very happy with. I really like how it looks. So I tape everything off, and I spare you that ordeal. I'm just showing you, look, I'm taping things. So I do tape the whole thing off, right? Luckily, there's lots of straight lines, which makes taping way easier. But the straight lines meet up with curved angles, so 6 of 1. Again, we're at ×3 here. I jump into the blue. I decided to show you all the paint. I usually don't, but there's not too much of it. This blue is just stunning. I was so happy with how all of this turns out. It's There are a couple helmets that I really enjoy. I love my Royal Guard. It's one of my favorites. I love my clone. My clone is super cool. I need to finish him too. But this one, this is something I've been working on for, I'd say, a decade now, on and off with different processes. So now everything is taped off, and I hit it with red. And oh my goodness, well, it looks kind of orange in here, but it is very red. And that was the moment right there where everything became real to me, right? I got all excited. I make him come out and look at a red paint. I start peeling off the tape. She's like, "You're gonna film that, right?" And I'm like, "Well, I am now." So here I am removing the masking, and I'm just so happy with how this thing looks. It's absolutely fantastic, right? The first one, the one I made out of foam, I'm like, that's kind of cool looking. The resin one, I'm like, oh, this will be perfect. And it was never right. I've never gotten to this point on this project, right? I've started 5 or 6 different times. First time was going to be Pepcura. Second time was going to be foam and then resin. And this was 3D printed and then resined, and that's the right way to go. I'm happy with how it looks. And for me, that's kind of a statement. I'm super. I mean, look at that. That's such a cool looking helmet, and it looks right. You know, there's a difference between a cool looking helmet and then a correct looking helmet, and that looks like I should be in a Veritech at this point. Talk about how many times I won the flying circus. It's a really neat design too. The guys who designed the Robotech stuff, or the Macross stuff, just out of the park, right? All of the things that were eventually turned into Robotech are some of the most iconic and just well done anime I think I've ever seen. And this helmet turned out exactly how I wanted it to. And that's real hard, right? And again, we're not done. I still have lining to do. I have the visor to take care of. So there's a lot more work left on this, but I mean, look at that. All the lines are exactly how I wanted them to look. You can see it in the gloss here. I like the gloss. The gloss looks nice. The clear I do in a little bit is matte clear. So I'm going to do a light steel wool buffing eventually and cover it in a higher gloss because I really like how that looked. I used a lot of tape, and it took forever to take this masking off. I tried to set it up so that if I found the beginning and pulled, it would all just pull the next piece and the next piece and the next piece. It doesn't always work. It did on that side, though. That side came off pretty easy. And I'm sitting here arguing with myself about whether I want to paint the vents in or not. And I didn't have to. It looks good without them, but ultimately I end up painting them in. And this is one of those points where I'm sitting there just looking. trying to figure out. That thing looks so amazing. So there's a lot of touch-up that needs to be done. So what I do is I get a paper plate, spray a bunch of paint, spray paint onto the plate so it pools, and then I just take a brush and pinstripe in all of the, because you can see where it's jagged from the tape. So I just take some white at this point, or no, this is blue, spray it down, and then just paint. I'm going from the darker colors to the lighter colors because I'm not paying attention, but it works out fine in the end. I get excited, and the white goes on top, so I want to make sure that I have all the base colors down. And then I come in with a wider flat brush for the white, still pinstriping on the blue. And now this is all the touch-up. There's a bunch of spots that just have, you know, a little bit here that need to be brushed on, a little bit here there that need to be brushed on, even things up a bit. And this step is crucial in making the project look complete. As a little overspray here or a little overspray there does make a huge difference. And I'm just using a standard paint thinner to clean this off. And then this is, I masked off the things. I'm like, I got to do it. I tend to use grocery bags as a mask, just because it tends to fit helmets really well, and they're going to get thrown away anyway. And if I use them like this, they're less likely to blow away and get caught into other things. And this was such an exciting moment, because this was almost the end of the paint, right? Luckily, since it was just a small area, I could be a little heavy-handed with the paint, and I was. And I was really worried I may have been a little too heavy-handed and not good enough with my masking. But it pulled pretty well. And it's just a little touch that I think finishes off the helmet. And of course I come in with a little bit of white just to cover everything up. Now that the white that I put down the first time has had time to cure, I can go over and put a second coat in certain areas. So at this point we're almost done, right? I've just got a little bit of paint to go, then it's got to dry. We give it plenty of time to dry. There are quite a few spots that need a little bit of touch up here and there. Luckily most of it I could just use a big brush. And it occurred to me that I have a drop cloth because my workshop's in my garage. And I do garage things. So, you know, let's drop the drop cloth so I'm a little less distracting. I've got a little more more room to move, and I don't have to worry about accidentally painting stuff. Right about here, I noticed I can smell spray paint. Oh, wait a minute. Put my respirator on, because spray paint's no joke. I know of all the things I mess with, spray paint's the one that I'm like, no, not today. But I do nice even coats. The clear I'm using here is Duplicolor. It's just a Duplicolor clear. I'm not exactly sure which clear it is. It came out matte, so it's probably a matte. I'm gonna steel wool it later and do a couple more coats. I want the high gloss, gloss hydrocrimes. So I'm just going over the whole thing nice and easy, making sure all of it's covered, because this clear is fantastic. I think it's a shake it for a minute, spray for a minute, shake for a minute, spray for a minute kind of thing. And it dries in 15 minutes. And it is just a hard enamel coating. It's amazing. I absolutely love this stuff. But the gloss on this helmet, right when it's wet like that, is just beautiful. So again, I keep saying this. This is a project I've been working on for like a decade now, and it's never gotten this far. And I am so very excited to have this helmet. Right? It's the first step in the costume for me, and to have it turn out as well as I'd hoped. It's just exciting. And look at that. I know it looks pretty orange on camera, but it is very red. It's a pure red, a pure blue. And I'm so happy with this thing. Look at this. Look at this. Oh, it fits like a glove. I'm so ecstatic about how this turned out. I got 4 more to do. I'm not bringing you along for most of those, by the way. But the next one I am going to, because it's got a body filler that we need to do, because there's a couple of dents in a couple areas that I want to fully fill out. This one's mine, so if I'm a little cavalier about it, I'm not worried about it. But the next ones I want to be perfect. They've got something similar right here, because that's right there is the only spot that I'm really upset about. And even then I'm not overtly upset about it, but I wish I'd just taken a little more time. So we're going to do that on the next one. This is going to get steel wooled and then glossed, and then probably steel wooled and then glossed. So it's going to be nice and shiny when it's done. And if you've made it this far, I really, really would hope you would subscribe. Yeah. I do weird stuff like this constantly, right? I'm an artist, so I crave validation. But if this is your thing, right? Let me know. Tell me what you're interested in. What helmets are you excited about? Maybe I'll do them. Who knows? I've got a lot of projects in mind, and these are never quick projects. But I like bringing people along with me, and I really hope that you have subscribed or will subscribe, because I'd really like to see you next week when we do the next one. So, see you then.